I do want to show you guys this website real quick. We are number one for a reason, guys. We're number one 3-4 years in a row, just because we're like a rubber band, right? We keep you guys keep pulling us, and we keep giving you guys what you guys want, and that's why we're commercial deal of the year 4 years in a row, and we're going for the fifth one. So that's what we're doing for you guys. All right. So G Money, I do want G Money to talk here. He did tremendously last week. One day he got 4 sales. I was out there with him, working his charm, working his magic, and I want you to quickly elaborate on what worked for you, so the guys can have some insight on the technique that you use out there.
Okay, thanks, Andy. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll start off really basic. All sales is basically a transfer of conviction, right? Because either you're going to sell the customer on why he needs the product, or the customer's going to sell you on why they're not buying. That's really fundamentally what it comes down to. So keep that in mind when you're in the field. It's sell or be sold, right? That's the famous saying by Grant Cardone. And I wrote down that there's 3 reasons why you make a sale, right? So keep this in mind. Number 1, when you're in the field, you sound really convinced about what you're saying. So when you're transferring the information to the customer, you're really convinced that that's true. Whether or not it is, it's up to your discretion. But if you sound like you're really sure about what you're talking about, you come off as an expert. And if you think about it, the business owner is an expert at making cupcakes or selling water or selling books or whatever. They're an expert at their craft. So this is number 2, you are the expert at Frontier, at AT&T, phone, internet. So it's important that you come off as an expert, as a professional. And how do you do that? You got to learn the product. So if you guys are not going out in the field prepared mentally, it's a good idea to study at night, the promotions, the pricing, the packages. So that way when you're talking in front of a customer, you come off quick with responses. That's important. And lastly, the 3rd reason I put down as the reason why you're making sales is because you're enthusiastic. We talk about the C factor, the smile, the eye contact, and the enthusiasm. So a lot of salespeople make the mistake of being, I think, boring. If you're a salesperson, everybody has a little different taste and different style when it comes to selling. But one thing that I've learned for me is that being monotone is a killer. If you guys watch The Wolf of Wall Street, you see that when he's closing clients over the phone, he's like whispering at a certain point because he really, really wants you to pay attention to this part. So you see how you use your fluctuation in voice to emphasize and unemphasize certain parts. Same thing with sales. When you're talking to a customer, you can't be monotone. You have to use all the advantages to your ability. You know what I mean? So they say that 75% of communication is nonverbal. So that means you could use your hands. A lot of communication is passed on through your hand gestures, the way you look, the way you're standing, the way you talk. So keep that in mind. Now I'm going to give you some real practical things that I did last week that worked for me, and then you could put this in your pocket and use it to your discretion. One of the things that I do is I keep a stack of business cards for all the owners I've closed, or most of them. So just to show you perspective, this is a little bit of what my stack looks like. So I keep that stack for multiple reasons. One, it keeps me motivated, because it helps me see physical progress in my sales. So you see that? I don't know how many cards that is, but on my Fast Jam, it says customers 1,500 or something. So, and that's just for Fast Jam. But it also reminds me of my skill. I'm like, dude, if I could close a business, I could do this shit again, and I can do this shit again. So there's going to be times that, you're going to go through a slump and you're going to feel down on yourself, but then you just look back on your progress and you're like, man, I'm a motherfucking badass. I got this shit. And that also goes into the peak state, you know? So that's really key for me, you know, so you can do that. Number two thing practical that I do is I literally write out a to-do list of all the fucking things I got to do. Because I got to do a lot of shit, you know? And this is really helpful because you're able to see all the stuff you have to do. And then at first you might get a little anxious because you're like, fuck, man, there's so much shit to do. I don't have enough time. But you have to figure out what the priorities are and then prioritize those to-do lists. And that helps you stay focused on your goals throughout the day. And that, you know, ultimately helps you with your progress and production because you're prioritizing the key activities that drive results. So that's number two, practical things to do. Number three is keep a detailed list of your follow-ups. So I have like a little notebook like this in my binder, and every time I have somebody that's interested in anything I had to say, and they seemed like they were at least attentive to hearing me out, and I feel like if I could convince this guy mathematically that it makes sense, I think I could, you know, get his ass. So I'll write down the notes in my notebook, and I also try to get an appointment. That's really important. I need a name, I need an address, and I need a phone number, and I need him to tell me like come back at this time. I'll ask him what time you want me to come back, and then I'll show up on that time, and then I'll close him. You know, because when you show up randomly, they're kind of like off guard. They're like, oh, what the hell? Like he's just trying to sell me something. But if you're going through your pitch and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm really busy right now, and you could tell that he's busy because he's really with a client, and you could see he's with a client, then try to get an appointment and keep detailed notes on everything that he said. For example, he has Spectrum. He has 3 lines. He's overpaying. He's paying $250 for 3 lines of internet. I'm writing all this shit down. So next time I show up, I already have it in here. I'm not like, oh, what customer were you again? That's not a sales professional. That's a sales mediocre loser. So we're sales professionals. So we keep notes and we keep detailed notes on, especially on our follow-ups. Now, number 4 of the practical things that I did last week that really worked is I explained to the customer about the referral program that we got going on. That's key. One of the key fundamentals of human nature is, you know, just people are selfish. We live life through our own perspective, you know, so we in general do things for our own best self-interest. So if you tell a business owner that they get $10 off for referring their friends, they're going to be like, oh, hell yeah, lower my bill even more. So don't be afraid to ask for the referral, because I did that last week, and then it helped me, you know, get an extra account in. So that's helpful. Now, number 5 of the practical things I do that, you know, helped me out last week is read books. You know, when I can't stress this enough, how important your mental is. And then if you don't read books and you don't consciously, you know, put content into your brain, you're falling into what's known as the expediency factor, which basically you're living your life, you know, with the flow of things on autopilot, doing things unconsciously that are easy and maybe not as important and as worthy as, you know, the hard things to do. So one thing that I do is the book I'm reading right now is called No Excuses by Brian Tracy. It's the power of self-discipline. That's what it talks about. And that book is really like adding a different perspective in my head on how I should be viewing the world. And if I didn't read that book, I would be unaware of the other perspective that there's out there. So winners win for a fucking reason, you know? So you should definitely try to do the same thing that winners are doing. So if I hear that freaking this billionaire is reading books, it's probably a good idea to read books as well, you know, because he's saying it's a good idea. Why not, you know? And the last thing that is practical that I did last week that you guys could take to the motherfucking bank is you just gotta go out there and just do it. You know, you can't just expect things to get done and you're chilling, playing video games, watching Netflix all day. You know, EDD money is cool. I like that as a thing, but if you're trying to get rich, you're not gonna get rich off the government's handouts. You know, that's what
Hey, Gio,
losers do. Yeah.
can you zoom in on your that paper again, that follow-ups?
Oh, okay. Let me show you. I didn't have it out yet. Let me show you. Give me one
No,
second.
I just want the address.
Oh, this guy. Anyways, man. But anyways, let me just outro with this, guys. One of the biggest keys behind everything that I just talked about is set goals for yourself. You know, think about your why in terms of how you live your life. And if you have small goals and you want to live an average life, then fuck it. You know, that's just what you're gonna do. But if you want to be like the alpha, the elite, the top 10%, the top 1%, if you want to be the winners in the world, you know, you got to set goals and fucking hunt them down. That's number one, man. So that's all I got for you guys. I think Stefan is going to say something after me. But if you guys have questions, drop it in the comment box or just ask away. You know, my pinky stays up for a reason.
Yeah, you know, one thing I like about what Gio just mentioned is that people are out there and they're successful at what they do. And if you just ask the right questions and you're in proximity with them, you will be that person and you'll be just like them. So, you know,
Yep.
just keep that in mind. And if you have any questions, Gio's on the call every Tuesday. If you don't have his phone number, get his phone number. He's out there always
Get
leading
my
by example.
Instagram.
All right.
Don't get
Thank
my
you,
phone number. Get my
Gio.
Instagram.